What's up, everyone? My name's Chris Marshall with my boy Frank G. We are the hosts of Build Your Empire podcast. Frank G, tell the people what we do.
What's going on, everybody? Chris and I, we discuss established empires while showcasing us building ours.
Frank G, we are on every Monday and Thursday. For those who are listening, check us out on all platforms. Leave us some feedback, comments, subscribe. We appreciate it. Frank G, whose show are we doing today on?
Today, we're going to discuss an empire that has generated billions of dollars and has millions of eyes.
I would say is one of the biggest businesses / corporation in America currently.
The NFL.
The NFL. And today, I guess tomorrow, but the show goes live tomorrow, which would be today for those who are listening, is the start of the NFL.
The start of the sport that pretty much everyone in America watches. Or at least...
I would say everyone. They say America's sports baseball. I think about a decade ago that converted to football. And interesting enough, it really is only prone to the United States.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the United States, what do you call it? What's football? Sour soccer.
Clearly soccer.
So, yeah. I mean, football pretty much took over church, took over religion. We have a day on God's day, Sunday.
That is funny how you perceive football.
Yeah, well, that's because, I mean, religion was probably the biggest business as well at one point.
So I remember when I came up to you with the show idea and concept. I was like, we're going to do a show on Jesus.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Well, now it makes sense, don't it? The Catholic religion is an empire in itself. I mean, you're correlating it to the NFL.
Yeah, of course. I mean, essentially, I agree to it in the end.
I guess. And with the NFL comes now a subset of
empires,
which is fantasy. Well, you could say that. I mean, well, yeah, of course, there's a subset of empires, all from players to coaches, GMs, activists, I guess. But now you have fantasy football in the mix, and I would project in another 5 years, the gambling is going to grow exponentially.
Yeah. Well, right now, the NFL averages like $15-16 billion a year, and by 2027 they want that to be 25 billion. So I'm going to assume they have visions of just the gambling going to increase. Everybody's betting on sports.
Yeah, I mean, I had my fantasy draft yesterday, and for all intents and purposes, I could say that I wasn't exactly on point while drafting, considering I drafted 2 Cleveland running backs without necessarily being aware at this time.
Chubb and Hunt?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, at least Hunt just signed an extension.
Tell you, though, if that's what she said, you'd be happy, kid. Michael Scott.
Yeah. I figured that's where you were going with that one.
Chubb and Hunt, though?
Chubb and Hunt. I took Chubb last year. He was on and off, though. But
I mean, he had a pretty decent year last year, I thought.
Yeah, for yards wise, yeah. I mean, he had some ball issues, but I had him last year. I decided to get.
I hope you don't say.
I took Chubb first pick, Hyde last pick, and my name was Hyde My Chubb.
You're a fucking fool.
Yeah. That's just an idea for anyone out there.
So I had the 8th pick, though, and it was a difficult decision because there were 7 stud running backs. After the 7th, it then dramatically drops off. And I didn't know. I was praying that I was to get one of the running backs because my philosophy is always go running back, and then I was going to get Mahomes on the wraparound, believe it or not. But
on the second
Chubb
pick,
fell to me.
I guess out of 12.
Because
right.
he wasn't going to last.
To get to your pick again. That's like 15, 16 picks.
Yeah, and my philosophy in fantasy is like I pick a kicker and defense almost like in the sixth or seventh round because they're part of the starting lineup. And if you can get the best player available, then when you are matching with someone, I mean, you're playing the odds, kind of. That's at least how I look at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously,
Which is why I get it.
yeah, I mean, obviously, you fill up your skill positions first, but it depends on how you draft, where your number is. I mean, if you have all your studs, and then all of a sudden the last space is defense, you may as well, yeah, get the number one defense. For a long time, Patriots top defense. That's who I went with this year.
I mean, it makes sense that me and you host the same show because I had the same similar thought process. I looked at what they did last year, and they were like an offense last year.
Oh, last year, 30 points, 28 points a game almost. And then for the last 5 years, they've been the top 5 defenses. So why would you not?
Exactly. So I took the Patriots defense as well. But my philosophy was if I was to get one of the 7 running backs, I have to move forward on that and not pick up the main receiver, which would be Michael Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the wraparound, I had the decision between Hopkins and Julio Jones anyway. So
Hopkins?
I went with Hopkins, correct.
Yeah, one of my boys drafts Julio Jones every year. I just don't understand. No matter what pick he is. Shout out, John.
You're telling me if he's the second pick, he's picking Julio Jones.
He's been the third pick, and he's picked Julio Jones. So I'm going to assume one more pick, he's going to pick Julio Jones. But obviously, I'm assuming you'd pick Christian McCaffrey if you're number one.
I believe our number one.
Saquon Barkley. It's either the other. It's one of the two, always.
No, the number one pick this year won the championship, and he's one of the best fantasy players.
That happened to me as well.
So I am not going to give that person a shout out, and I'm not going to shout out. You know what, Lang? Suck it.
It's funny you said you wanted to draft Mahomes. That's what I went for. I got Mahomes as the quarterback, Patriots as defense.
Well, because the 8th pick's a tricky pick. So when it comes the wraparound, when I had the choice between essentially Mahomes, Julio Jones, or Hopkins, I can't make.
Yeah, it's too tough.
It actually wasn't tough.
Well, you're right. It would be tough to take Mahomes because there's too many people. There's too many quarterbacks left.
On the wraparound, it was tricky because, well, not the wraparound, but I guess the 3rd pick, because a few picks ahead of me, person went with Mahomes, which then immediately sparked Lamar Jackson, and now I had the pick.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm nervous because the last thing you want is to be that guy who has to constantly every week plug in a position.
It's the worst. Oh.
My theory is to not do that, which is why I always pick typically defenses, quarterbacks, and kickers.
They do say though that the aggressive coach type, the people who are like people who pick up people now, typically those are the people that win. More aggressive like trade types.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I went with Deshaun, and I don't know. I just figured someone who just got the bag is not going to fumble the ball.
I hope not, because I have him in my second league.
Yeah, well, to be honest, and sounds very selfish for the listeners, I necessarily don't care what you do. I care about what I do when it comes to these fantasy football leagues, unless me and you are co-owners, which we are not.
Well, I mean, I guess we're already taking part in the betting in football. So, yeah, like you said, it's going to just keep increasing. At least we get to enjoy the sport, watch it, and play this fun game. I mean, meanwhile, the players probably – That's honestly, for the amount of money they get paid, it's great, but they sure do have a high injury rate. It's pretty wild, what's formed from that.
I don't think they get paid that much out of all the pro sports.
So NBA is the highest salary per player. The NFL spends the most on each team per player, but there's 53 men on a team. So they spend $700 million more than any sport in the world on their team players.
Which I guess makes sense. They need the largest stadiums. They need the most updated equipment. But the players themselves, I bet you have the smallest shelf life of a career.
Absolutely.
other sports, and they probably have the smallest minimum wage or veteran
They
pay.
Well, an active rookie has to make a minimum of $480,000 for a 1-year contract.
Which seems similar to the MLB and the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, obvious. And so the NFL only has 29 players in 100 million or more mark. So yeah, I mean, the money's never guaranteed. It's pretty tough because I'm, once you're hurt, you could get all that money that they offered you gone. So you can went from a $60 million contract to now that you made what, 7?
I don't think those contracts are in the favor for the player in the NFL at all. And then when you put in this particular situation with the pandemic, I don't know what the fuck is going to happen because it seems like the NFL are not even testing. They're not.
Seems like they're just going on like nothing's like
nothing. Yeah.
Every sport has like spoken about it heavily. And the NFL, I guess it just hasn't started yet. That's probably the issue.
Hasn't started yet. The only news story I heard was that there was 60 false positive tests that were tainted from a clinical lab. How does that even happen?
Yeah, I mean, I only assume once 8:00, 8:30 showtime on Thursday, there's bound to be tests positive. There's bound to be people with the virus eventually.
I also read that the Steelers plan on fining $1 million to any player that is currently or will kneel per game. That doesn't even make sense considering you just said that a minimum wage for a player is about $450, $500K.
Oh, that's the thing. You get fines. If you have the lowest salary in the NFL and you do an illegal contact,
you get fined $30K.
$30K, and you
10%.
Your salary for that day or that week is gone. It's crazy. Yeah, no, the rules. The rules for like the players and how they make their money. I mean, the NFL is so rich. I mean,
that's a problem though.
Yes.
Is that I can almost see a decline happening in 5 years where they don't reach their projections due to the fact that they treat their employees like such dog shit. And then you have people like The Rock or the Vince McMahon. Rich people are trying to create a new league because they see this. Even the fact that the NFL is so polarizing that they try to get political by fining the team. Most sports are not touching it. Do what you want.
Yeah, well, the kneeling thing that started in the NFL, so that was Colin Kaepernick.
Sure, but what's so interesting is that the NFL seems to be pretty right and conservative, and they're not shy in elaborating that because they know in the end they're still going to make the fucking dollar bills.
Yeah, well, yeah, some of the owners are some of the richest people in the entire world.
Yeah, I know. I'm one day trying to get.
The average NFL team is $2.8 billion today.
I mean,
or that's how much they're worth. Yeah. So I think more often than not, you inherit a team. I mean, someone in your family passes, you get a team. The last person.
I don't think so, dude. I think a lot of people purchase the teams.
Well, it hasn't been in a long time then. Or the last person is what's his name? Pepper. I think is it David Pepper? Yeah, David Pepper.
But here's the thing. Sports teams wasn't deemed a good investment 30 years ago. So you were able to get, the Warriors or the Baltimore Ravens or the Colts. You can buy those teams for like $400 million. As opposed to $2.5 billion. The compound that the league, I mean, I guess the brand from the league obviously increased the equity in the teams, but the teams now, I mean, they got like 1,000% their investment.
The owners, you're saying?
Yeah, and
absolutely.
Almost like Mark Cuban when he bought the Dallas Mavericks. These people were buying the teams as a passion, not necessarily, I believe, as a business move, and it just played out that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but now it's clearly a business. But would you sell out your business for $2.8 billion? Would you sell your
Not
team?
not if I got a Billy in the bank already.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
that point, I'm playing to win championships. But individuals can no longer afford to buy these teams, I don't think. I mean,
absolutely. I absolutely agree. I
that's why
mean,
you have like A-Rod and J-Lo. They have like
yeah, they were gonna buy, what was it, like candidate for
the
the Mets or
Mets.
something. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The NFL is its own world. It's its own government almost. So every owner is its own entity. Where like the XFL, Vince McMahon owns every team. So every team is generating their own dollars for merchandising, for ticket sales. So yeah, it's a gold mine for whoever's in that.
Which is interesting in itself. I guess each team is an individual business,
Yes, it is. Yep.
which is, I mean, I'm a believer that there's no freedom of speech in a business, as
Well,
shitty as it sounds.
I mean, clearly the Pittsburgh Steelers have decided to find people that kneel. I mean, that was a whole thing with Colin Kaepernick. He hasn't signed on
Yeah,
a team, regardless if he was good or not towards the end. But yeah, they, they a job, like you said to me off air once, is its own government, and they'll do whatever they want. You know.
and they'll continue doing whatever they want until someone like The Rock,
Mm-hmm.
and The Rock has the cachet, man. I think he's got the money. I think he has the connections. I mean, what would it take to convert? I don't think it would take much for someone to convert a fan in our demographic.
Convert a fan, as in if a new owner comes.
If a new league was to show up, if the XFL gets
Yeah.
rolling again, and The Rock creates another empire to compete,
It.
we may literally jump off, especially if 10% of the NFL stars were to
Mm.
convert.
I mean, I would say The Rock would be the person to help you convert the best. I mean, that's not easy. When I look at the NFL, I'm thinking like Mafia Families. These people own so much money in America.
I mean, yeah, you're talking about like the 0.01%.
Yeah. So I don't know if the XFL would ever take over. I mean, it could get rolling for sure. I mean, it's also when I think football is over, so that just makes it even better.
I guess we're going to see. I know the XFL was gaining a little bit of traction,
Yeah, it was.
or
Yeah.
it truly was. And I mean, Vince McMahon is a genius in itself in the empire of the WWE, but even he had innovations that the NFL have now taken over with camera angles.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm sure the innovations for the NFL cameras have changed cameras all over the world. I mean that's kind of like the police cameras you see hanging on your street lights. They get the 360 views, see everything. That changed the sport for sure.
I don't know. And I mean, globally as well, the NBA by far is surpassing any other league within our nation. I mean, if they were to gain enough dollars, then they can compete within the nation with the NFL. I don't know though. I mean, the NBA seems like they're actually doing a poor job this playoff season.
Well, everybody is affected clearly. I mean, who knows what's going to come this season with the COVID in
Yeah,
the
but
NFL.
it's very apparently nothing. They're going to sweep it under the rug while the NBA players are sitting there saying how they're depressed and miserable, that they
Yeah,
got to stay in the bubble and they can't concentrate or focus. Meanwhile, I haven't left my house in 6 months. So why are you so special, asshole?
I
Instead,
mean, yeah, there's no bubble in the NFL, right? So
no.
you're playing a home game and an away game, you're getting on a plane, you're going wherever you have to go. It just seems like the NFL is, yeah, it's doing its thing. It does whatever it's want. They do what they want. It's like crazy. I don't get it. There's gonna be repercussions though. I'm assuming my top players could potentially be out for the season due to like COVID risks.
I don't think we're going to hear a peep about COVID. And
That would be very interesting. Very, very interesting. With millions of eyes on you, that's very interesting.
well, what's interesting is that the NBA was able to shut the nation down using COVID, and the NFL may be able to start it back up without using COVID.
Well, yeah, it's actually pretty interesting because COVID was like kind of quiet, and then you saw these NBA players coming out with it asymptomatic, and everything
The
changed.
minute the NBA shut down, the nation shut down.
Yeah. So, I mean, another big business generating billions of dollars.
It was incredible to see the culture influence that the NBA has.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest cultural influence.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
because the NFL, bro, the only reason why people probably still have cable is for the NFL.
You know, it's funny you say that. I was thinking that last night. I was like, you know what? I don't even turn on my cable. Let me see what
You do every Sunday when you go to church.
Yeah, and then yesterday I'm like, you know what? I haven't looked at Sports Center fantasy football in a long time. Let me see who the heck is like a sleeper. And then I'm like, I got to turn my cable on for this. This does not happen unless it's football season. That's actually interesting.
Now.
So the NFL is keeping the cable providers afloat. That's interesting.
All sports, essentially.
Yes, all sports.
But yeah, once and to be honest, if we were to go back 10, 15 years ago, the reason why there is a significant lag from the MLB compared to the NBA and NFL is because the MLB they weren't allowing streaming of their product up until like 5 years ago. So in 2006, 2007, 2008, when you can stream and have all these networks where you can watch the product, the MLB locked it up. Now, that's important for brand recognition. You need to put your product out there and have 350 million Americans look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. Obviously, there's something that we don't know why they did that. I mean, as a Pats fan, I had to stream most of the games every season for the NFL.
They did that because they thought that if they had exclusivity rights, that they could pretty much charge you. But the NBA and the NFL was like, I don't need your money now. I need you to watch us and then collect your money later.
I'm about my monies as well.
I'm all about my monies. I'm using the same theory and philosophies. Watch me and listen to me now. I don't want your dollar now, but I may ask in a couple of years.
Hey, man, it's all about the long run. It's all about the long-term goals.
Yep.
Well, hopefully for the reason we love the NFL, I mean, it's obviously some of the most exceptional athletes in the world. It's the most violent sport that you could think of.
Debatable.
Yeah, it's debatable. Obviously, there's the MMA, but there's some serious injuries. Clearly, I mean, we have players that had to learn to walk again. Took a couple of years. What was his name from the Pittsburgh Steelers? I mean, a guy from the Pats had CTE where he shot himself in the chest. So, like, the reason we love the NFL, hopefully, is not one day the reason it is gone.
Well, it's actually interesting when you look at it in the perspective that the NFL is the modern day Coliseum.
It really is. There's just gladiators going at it in an arena.
And you got fans who they just want to see it.
They want to see it all. I mean, they want to see someone just get popped and thrown 50
which is ironic because the COVID argument on how it is so unsafe for players to be running into each other with a contagion like that. But on the flip side, the argument is, well, they actually do wear the most gear outside of hockey, so they're pretty geared up.
Yeah. I mean, typically they have. I think
gloves,
they were talking about
masks.
Yeah, I think they were talking about face shields too on the outside of the helmet.
I'm sure they're gonna have them.
It just makes sense. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna sweep it under the rug, at least show us that you're taking precautions.
I would also imagine that in a league where probably 60 to 70% takes performance-enhancing drugs, or regular drugs for that matter, they don't give a fuck about COVID.
Yeah, probably.
And the ones who did already backed out.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. The Denver Broncos is the leading cheating team with PEDs.
You think it's a coincidence Von Miller just got hurt?
Von Miller got hurt, and Talib just retired. That defense all of a sudden just looks like it got worse.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean,
the NFL since 1920, so that's pretty wild. And in the history of the NFL, 49 teams have been debunked. And there's only 2 teams that have made it to present day. You know who they are?
2 teams have made it to present day.
2 teams, yeah. Out of the 12 original teams, 10 of them are no longer in the NFL.
Give me regions within the nation.
Midwest and probably West. Yeah.
All right. So that's not the Cowboys then.
No. Well, Cowboys is, I guess, Midwest, no? But it's not the Cowboys.
Cowboys probably be Central.
Well, I could. So then this could be irrelevant. I could just be throwing you off with my geography. So I'll just tell you. It is the Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals.
So I was actually going to say the Arizona Cardinals, though. That sucks.
My bad, man. I didn't mean to take it away from you.
The Arizona Cardinals was the first football team I've seen live versus the New York Giants.
I'd love to go to a football game, but who knows? That's definitely not happening this year.
Yeah, remember that time we went to New Orleans during the Patriots, and you're a Patriots fan during the Super Bowl?
Yes, of course I did.
And you utilized that to make out with a girl?
Blowing me up here. That's funny. I did. She was a Pats fan. She had a group of friends. They were all wearing Pats jerseys.
I helped you out there. I was a wingman right there.
Yeah, you typically are a good wingman. I'll say that.
Yeah, our boy Tom. He's like, yeah, I'll be back, and he came back like an hour after the game.
Oh yeah, Tom. He outdid himself, I guess, that time. A little too much. New Orleans, great party spot though, but that was one hell of an experience. That was when the refs blew the New Orleans chances to be in the Super Bowl, and you see people driving around.
Oh, that was great, classic.
Yeah, I have a picture of a guy driving around a pickup truck with a referee like dummy hanging from its feet. Very, very graphic.
I guess before we end this show, what's your prediction here? Do you want to make a bet on this prediction?
What do we got?
Yeah.
Do I have to say bet without knowing what it is?
Hundo Fundo.
I'm not asking the amount. I'm asking what I'm betting on.
You're betting on what team wins it all.
All right. So I'll bet. So what happens if neither of our teams win?
Then neither of us make money.
All right. Let's do it. Hundo P.
What team you got?
That's tough, man. Normally I would sound biased and say the Pats, but certainly not going to say that this year.
I don't know. It would sure suck if we picked the same team. So I guess on 3 we have to say the team.
I mean, I'm not going to choose your team. I guess I see what you're saying.
You don't know. Yeah. I mean, that would suck. So
yeah.
You have your team?
I have my team.
All right. So for $100, we are going to bet on what team is going to win the Super Bowl on 3. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. The Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Oh, see, that's why the bet's already off. The bet's already off.
Man.
I get with that being said, it only makes sense that we both took Deshaun. It only makes sense we both took the Patriots. It only makes sense we'll pick the same goddamn team.
Yeah.
No team in like 20 years goes back to back.
That is funny. Well, I guess that does make sense.
Yep, the empire of the NFL. Damn.
We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace.